I'm here with Crauford Winery, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about Crauford Winery and the wines we're going to taste tonight.
Oh, sure. Well, Crauford is Scottish. We are 100% Scot, so that's really our foundation for the name. And the name of it is Tattoo, which is a big festival that takes place in front of Edinburgh
It's not
Castle.
something you wear on your arm, a tattoo?
Well, only if you've had a big night of drinking. But it's a big festival that celebrates art and wine in Scotland, so that's the name of the wine. My husband makes all the wines and I grow the grapes for the family.
And where are the vineyards?
The backside of Howell Mountain.
Okay, so high up in Howell Mountain?
Right,
or?
this is grown at 1,400 feet elevation.
Okay.
It's all dry farm. The vineyard's about 22 years old. So it has a lot of layers and complexity to it now. And we just kind of let it do its own thing with just a little, as minimal as much interference as we need to do.
And give me some landmarks. Who's near you?
Clark-Cladon is probably the closest
so
from
exactly.
us. Right, yeah,
So
it's
it's great
fantastic.
to watch.
It's eastern exposed, which is always very nice to grow grapes.
And in 03, when it got very hot, how did you handle it?
Well, you always have to take what Mother Nature gives you. So if you're having really hot summer, very dry summer, then you have to always do your cultural practices within the vine so it kind of protects the fruit. But this particular Cabernet is grown on terraces, so it's all stone terraces, so you have to be really careful of the reflection of the stone there on that property. So what we do, luckily, because it has an eastern exposure to it, that right around 3:30 in the afternoon, the sun goes over the mountain, so we don't get the really late afternoon sun that kind of causes that sunburn and really baked characters that sometimes you can get in wine. So it's a natural control. That's why eastern exposure is so wonderful.
That's great. And so it's the 03 vintage.
03 just came out last week, actually, and it's 100% cab this time, so it's a big, fat Napa Valley cab.
So it doesn't say Howell Mountain. Is that because of the height of the vineyards, or because you're...
Well, part of the vineyard is in Howell Mountain, but this exact place where the grapes are grown are not in the Howell Mountain appellation, so I can't label it that way. But it's there. It's a little bit of French oak, so big fat cab.
I've tasted a lot of 03 cabs, and this is going into that meatier, a lot of structure, a lot of tannin.
A lot of tannin, yes. I've waited almost 6 months to release it because it's such a big fat cab.
But I would save this. I would save this for some time, or have it with a juicy, thick steak.
Yeah, it's made for a steak,
yeah,
for sure.
It's
or you can sit it down for quite a long time.
It's got good structure. How do you compare that to the 04 vintage for you? Do you have a handle on that yet?
04, oh yeah, for sure. The 04 vintage in general growing is kind of similar to more 02s, where they're much more approachable earlier. 03 has structure like 01s do.
Right.
So
and now we're coming into this, I'm sorry, the 05 vintage, which was on the vine for virtually ever. It's like the longest growing season. And you must have so much acidity because of that.
It's really good. Well, it's 05 when you have a really long growing season where it starts to get really cool in the fall and the vines don't actually mature more and more. They don't really accumulate sugar. They just kind of develop more. Then you can just let them go forever. And you keep the acidity. They don't get flabby or fat. So that's really a great growing year for sure. I think 05s are really out of the world.
It's exciting. We have the 03, which is really a dark, deep, tannic monster, but with enough fruit to balance it. You got the 04, which has ripeness, and a nice middle, and a good finish, but really friendly now.
Right.
And then we're going to have the 05, which is going to be, I think, a wine that could last forever. I mean, based upon what I'm reading about it and the wines we've tasted so far.
I think you're right on. 04 is one of those things that has, like you said, it's approachable now. You'll see 04s on the market now that are actually probably more approachable than 03s because the structure is so there in 03. So, yeah, I mean, we're lucky enough in Napa to have great years most of the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, Julie. Cheers.
I enjoy it.